What's up, everybody? It's Joe LaPuma. You were watching the Complex Sneaker Show. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. First off, to my right, Mr. Matt Welty.
Nice little rainy Friday, but, you know.
Did a doubleheader this week.
Yep.
To my left, fresh off the jet, Mr. Brendan Dunn. Short trip, but he's here.
I'm tired, man.
You got your pajama pants? Those aren't pajama pants, though. Those are cozy boys, though.
Pajama pants. Rest in peace to Pa.
Oh.
Sorry, that's a super insider thing, but a brand that I quite loved that just shuttered last week.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
What's going on? This is the second episode that we shot this week.
Right. You're hearing it, watching it on a normal week.
Absolutely. And I don't know if we want to get into it now. Some news broke right after we filmed the episode that was out last week.
Yeah, that's a funny thing that happens where you're sitting down recording an episode and you get out of the recording and you have 5 tweets from people being like, oh my God, did you see this? Did you see this? What we're talking about here is the bust in LA, the sneaker bust. LAPD says they seized $5 million worth of sneakers from a couple warehouses there. They arrested one, Roy Lee Harvey Jr., for his alleged involvement in this. And they didn't mention in anywhere that Project Blitz was the place where they got the sneakers from. But if you look at the photos, you can see that this happened at Project Blitz in terms of where they got the shoes from. Nobody from Project Blitz has been accused of any wrongdoing. Nobody's been charged with anything. They did update their site. It says, we'll be right back right now. And it's kind of like a confirmation that, yeah, this happened there.
Involved. I guess just like a little background on Project Blitz just to set the stage. You can obviously go listen to the podcast that we did with Project Blitz founder Andre Lustina, aka Croatian Style, from Nike Talk Internet days. But it's Project Blitz is kind of anomaly in the sense that it's not Flight Club, it's not Stadium Goods, it's not even your local consignment store, but it is a resale shop that isn't public facing.
It's like a private shopping experience for
a lot of celebrities.
Yeah, super rare.
Drake, Travis Scott, etc. When Travis was wearing all the Nike SB stuff early on, they were the supplier for it.
Basically by appointment only shopping.
And Dre is one of the people who's been in sneaker reselling for the longest. He has legendary stories, again, like you mentioned, that we spoke to him about, the Paris Nike SB Dunks.
Yes.
I think he's one of the few people, too, that really walks the line between reseller and collector.
Okay.
You know, where it's like he's a reseller, but he's also known for the Vault, which has all these rare
Space Jam 11s.
The shoes that Michael Jordan wore in Space
Jam. Kanye samples, yes.
And again, we're just giving the background info on this. Dre is not charged with anything. Nobody from Project Blitz is charged with anything. His name wasn't
even mentioned.
Exactly. If you read the LAPD report, which is all that anybody's going off of right now, as far as I could tell, aside from some rumors and bits of info floating around, it said that they were working with Nike's head of global security to crack this case and other detectives. To me, this looks more like Nike going after people who are stealing Nike shoes on a supply chain level, maybe from spots like Memphis, from distribution centers.
Going after the guy who sold the shoes, etc., right?
Yeah, he's the one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Instead of Project Blitz itself.
I don't read this as Nike going after the resale shops or the people who are at the end of that chain reselling the sneakers. I read this more as like Nike looking at the problem that we know is a thing because we see all these hordes of sneakers that pop up early and they can only come from so many places. So to me, this is Nike trying to solve the problem of sneakers getting stolen from warehouses and things like that. That's what I believe, looking at it from a high level and just listening to a little bit of the chatter for people who are kind of aware.
It kind of reminds you of, I think maybe we even referenced it here on the past, but like if anyone ever watched the TV show Pawn Stars back in the day, when people would come in to sell things to the shop for them to sell, they'd always have to ask them, is this stolen merchandise? Or if they had a feeling that it was stolen merchandise, not because they would get arrested for having the stolen merchandise, but if the cops found out, they know they would come, just seize the goods, and then they'd be out whatever they paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to speculate, pure speculation, that it's going to be pretty difficult for Project Blitz to recoup if this is actual $5 million worth of product that they're missing, especially because you think about there are certain sneakers in there that they reference. They don't say specifically what the shoes are, but they say, oh, there's prototypes and samples and things like that. Any given resale shop that has high-end stuff probably has a few sneakers that say on the inside of them, sample, property of Nike, not for resale. And if a law enforcement agency comes and takes those shoes away because somebody somewhere stole them or took them, or, if a Nike employee had them made. We know this has happened in the past. Kyle Yamaguchi, Tung Ho, that whole thing.
Yes.
Had them made, had the samples made, and then sold them to a resale shop. But technically on the inside it says this is Nike property, not for resale. Then yeah, you may never get those things back. So I think that definitely could happen in this situation. And, you know, this is a real thing that I was talking to one resale shop owner. Like, people go to jail for this. He was telling me the story, and it happened years ago, but where he spent a week in jail over a pair of shoes that he had tried to list for sale on Nike Talk, and it was a numbered sneaker. So you could trace back. If this shoe was stolen from you, it might say on the inside 548 out of 1,000. And if somebody else has that shoe, that's the exact shoe. And basically that he didn't know when it came into his possession, but this was a shoe that was burglarized from somebody's house. And yeah, he went to jail for a week for stolen and possession property over a pair of shoes. This happens. But I think sometimes this stolen thing is a gray area because again,
it sounds very complicated.
If you work at Nike and you have the ability to make sample shoes, and I'm not saying that this happened in this specific instance, and you make those shoes and then you give them to somebody or you sell them to somebody, I don't know how responsible that person at the end is.
Or even how far down the line where if it's like changed hands like 6 times and now you're the owner of it. Because it's like, not to come on here and, you know, because people are like, oh, you know, you guys cape for these resellers or whatever. But you just have to imagine how crazy it must be as a collector to have something in your property where you're like, you know, you have a PE Air Jordan or a sample or a piece that's almost like memorabilia, you know? And then the law enforcement agency just comes in. They're like, hey, you know, you spent $50,000 on that pair of shoes, but it's ours now.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Pawn Stars because I know your guys' retail background is in sneakers, but, you know, my retail background as a teenager working at my stepdad's record shop, and we bought and sold all kinds of things, video games, stereo equipment, instruments, washing machines, speakers. And it would happen all the time where people would come in and they want to sell us old Xbox games or things like that. And we would always log all their information just in case the police ever came asking. And there were definitely certain teens and young adults in town who were eager to steal stuff from Walmart and bring it to the store and sell it to us. And they would sometimes ask, like, well, what stuff do you guys want? I can get
it for you.
And we're like, no, if somebody, and again, this is just my personal experience. I'm not saying this is tied to any sneaker store, but if somebody is telling you like, I can get this thing, then you have to immediately back away from it and be like, no, we don't want any brand new Game Boy games still in the plastic from the local Walmart.
Wow. Interesting. And I think you're the closest with Dre out of all of us. And I think that both of you reached out for comment, and they
you know, it's like known him for quite some time, just for transparency's sake. I've known that guy for almost a decade at this point, just through a job and just being like, I'm sure you know, we've seen like him at Complex Con, like
I went through
with the Complex crew and all that sort of stuff, and you know, just reached out to him first because he's a friend of mine, so you just want to like be like, hey, you know, how are you doing, you know, and gave me like a little bit of a rundown, nothing that we can like talk about yet, but said, hey, you know what? I have a law firm on it. Hopefully they'll be able to give you a statement sometime soon. So that hasn't been able to come through yet, but as a case that's dealing with a lot of crazy legalities behind it, I'm sure he wants to be a little more calculated in the messaging that he puts out there.
Yeah, so no statement just yet. And again, nobody from Project Blitz that we know of has been accused of any wrongdoing or charged with anything.
Funny story, though, with him is that, so we were at Complex Con. What was the year that Pharrell performed?
Bad with years. 2017? 2018? 2017.
No, it's 2018.
One of those two.
And he's doing the NERD performance, and we're waiting outside trying to get in. And Dre, who's friends with Trinidad James, they've known each other for years, and I hadn't met Trinidad yet at this point. This is like pre-full size run. It was like a few months lead up, and he goes, hey, do you want to meet my friend? And at the time, I guess Trinidad was doing a lot of acting, and he was, I don't know if he was trying to separate from the Trinidad James moniker, but he goes, hey, I'm Nick.
That is interesting.
Like the first time I ever
met
him.
Love at first sight with you guys? Not, you know,
no, it was just
rapport.
To be honest with you, it was just so brief. It was just so brief. It was like it wasn't like we had a conversation or anything.
Were you starstruck?
No, but I was like, oh crap, you know, it was just like one of those.
Oh dang.
Yeah. Oh dang. It was just funny. That was like, and that's not how the full size run thing started, awesome, but that was just kind of like the first.
The real story is a
gave
long
you
one
his government, huh? TJ gave the government out.
Can I say one thing that I'm sick of real quick? I don't want to dwell on this too long because I literally want to just move past it. Too many Crocs. Too many Crocs collabs.
What about the Palace
Every
Crocs?
time I open Instagram, it's a new pair of wacky Crocs, the McDonald's Crocs or the...
You don't like the Lightning McQueen Crocs?
The Lightning McQueen Crocs or the, you know...
I got the little... What about the ones I gave Jitty on with the
Monopoly
headlights?
Crocs. I feel like it's just too much.
Really?
There's NASCAR Crocs
Are you
coming
over
out.
Crocs in general?
I never was a Crocs guy, so it just
they're
doesn't...
all over,
I know,
though.
that's the problem,
Listen
Joe.
to the kids, bro.
Another thing I'm over, but it's worth referencing real quick. Adidas is deciding to sell off its remaining Yeezy inventory at cost.
I think the internet's over that.
I just want this saga to be done.
They haven't, yeah.
The funnier story is beyond that was the post from the Yeezy pods.
Oh yeah,
there's a picture of the Yeezy pods.
ATATF posted.
Yeah, KO shout out.
Yeah,
good dude. He had posted a picture of it where someone has the Yeezy pod shoe.
Yeah.
And they're just like way too big. And then little does he know, Kanye West himself sends him this like angry rant about,
don't try and play me like that.
Yeah, you should have told them to get this. Foot Locker's trying to rip me off.
Wrong size. Yeah. Can't be a great day waking up to an angry DM from Kanye West, but never been there.
No.
Brendan, can we talk briefly? Because I thought it was funny the picture I tagged you on Twitter.
Yeah, am I fulfilling that exact prediction right now?
What?
There's a picture that I think it's above the Cloud store in Australia posted. It was an on foot product photo. I had posted it in Slack of someone wearing the eggplant foam posits. With
I saw that. I saw that
with these big little pants, and I could not believe that. I mean, they did there was the shop that did the A6 collaboration that Will Ferrell bought on sneaker shopping.
Shouts to them.
Yeah, they've done a lot of cool stuff, and it's just funny to see that. I'm like, whoa, this is really the product photo that they're doing for the eggplant.
That's so funny. I thought that was a meme.
Yeah, wait,
no,
did
I
they
didn't
do it
know
on
like
purpose?
a store
or
set.
No,
that was that. No,
like as in you should buy this shoe because it could look this cool on your foot.
That was just their product photo.
They had the Amaya denim from 2016.
That wasn't even a Maya denim. That was straight up Brendan Dunn.
Go ahead.
I don't know if he. I don't know.
Have you done pants that wide?
No, he hasn't.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my defense.
He hasn't.
Joe. I appreciate
that.
But
that is a very funny photo. I would like to know the story behind it if they did it to get an internet reaction.
Yes, we reached out to us. Someone goes, I know those shoes are too big on their feet too. That the way that the toe's pushing them up.
Wow.
I want to drop a couple leaks.
Oh,
because that's we like to sprinkle that in on this show. You know, we got everything. We got the banter, we got the debates, we got the guests. We also have exclusive news that you won't find on other podcasts. Nike is doing more Swarovski collaborations, or I don't know if you call those collaborations. It's kind of right at the edge of whether or not they're just
it's like 3M
materials.
almost. You know,
yeah. Air Max Pluses, some TNs with Swarovski crystals on them.
What? Do you know what they look like?
I haven't seen them in person just yet.
Those, the first...
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
This is always the hardest thing for me to say. The first Swarovski, I always...
Flawless. I just said crystals, so yeah, you got to pass.
Swarovski,
I always say it wrong.
Crystal, Air Max 97s, the OG colorways, the gold.
Classic?
In the
classic?
silver. I want to say when...
Can I say it's a classic?
We're going to bust down the TNs?
I'm going to say...
Flooded?
Those 97s when they came out, because it was a woman's exclusive shoe, the ladies went crazy.
Everybody went crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they came. Maybe I'm bugging. I don't think they came in the bigger sizes.
I don't know how high the sizes were.
Yeah, but I just remember when those dropped, that women's exclusive.
Yeah. I remember that.
Those went bonkers.
I could see these looking really good on some TNs.
Yeah.
We may have to scoop them.
Bust them down.
They did
the BBSs,
but also
all factory. All factory diamonds on the TNs.
They also
get me started.
Like Jerry, hit him with the Shador.
Exactly.
Hit him with the Shador.
Exactly.
They got his dad the Rolex.
Yep. Exactly.
Nah.
But also,
they know what time it is.
Ongoing with the Swarovski collaboration, they actually did last year, 2023. It was supposed to be a bigger shoe, but unfortunate circumstances with the Jaw 1.
That's right.
That's
right.
We're at the shoe that released at All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City. I feel like, if everything hadn't happened last year, I feel like that shoe would have been pretty, I don't want to say sneakers of the year, but may have been in the
Jaw with this.
Way more in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the Jaw 1, until like everything that went on with him last year off court, people were so excited for that model,
Listen, the Bayshore basketball team is 15-0.
This year, you pay attention to your high school basketball team?
Yeah, of course. That's my alma mater.
Do you?
Shouts to my boys.
No.
Crushing it.
I couldn't tell you.
Carter Wilson.
At all. Anything that happened in my high school.
I check in on the high school football team once in a while. That's about it.
15-0. I'm going to be there for the playoffs. There may be 16-0 by the time this airs. But you guys will know, I think I'm going to quiz you guys. Serious ballers. are co-signing a shoe that like is one of the best on-court shoes. What do you think it is?
Sabrina?
Correct.
Go Ducks. I just said it. I just said go
everything
Ducks.
Everything that I hear is that shoe is exceptional to ball in.
I'm glad.
Wait, how do you feel recently? Did you see that a friend of the program, John Geiger, broke out the Oregon 14s to go hooping?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, I thought you would have had a take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Oregon's a national brand that people know and love, but it does always feel weird to me when people have PEs if they don't necessarily have a specific connection. I don't know if he does or not. I don't feel any strong way about it.
Yeah, JG gets the pass. Come on. Bring him to campus.
He's
been on campus.
Yeah, he's been on campus more than me. The Beaverton campus, not the University of Oregon campus.
Well, bring him to both. Okay?
John, let's do a road
trip.
Yeah.
JG brought, whatever. Great club night in near.
Any details you could share?
Near Hollywood, Florida, back in the day. He knows. Great night.
Okay.
Right before the Wale sneaker shopping shoot that I mentioned, but man, fire.
Will we ever get Wale that stuff here?
I hope, but we'll see.
Okay. One more little leak I'll sprinkle on here, and some of the stuff we talk about on here, it's just a couple sources that we don't have it totally firmed up yet, but just rumors we're hearing. But I think that Jordan Brand is preparing for its own holiday this year in something called J Day in October, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Michael Jordan entering the NBA.
Yep.
They've done the Band Day in the past and kind of gotten away from that recently and not celebrated it as much. I don't know if this J-Day thing is going to be a huge blow. I don't know if it's going to be a yearly thing.
I'm okay with no more like sneaker holidays.
Yeah, sounding like the Grinch over here.
No,
sounding like the absolute Grinch. No Kobe's.
Let's just let the record show. I feel like you have been the biggest detractor on the planet from Air Max Day.
Really?
Yes.
You more.
No.
Half of our colleagues couldn't even enjoy the day, you judging them. Because they did the circle.
Posted by the water cooler like Air Max LTVs.
Just hating.
95s, but there's
exactly
no PSI
looking
rating
at
on the bubble.
The main account.
No, you've been the biggest detractor.
I don't think so. He was at the Innovation.
Listen,
what did he call the store? The Innovation Summit store?
The House of Innovation.
Yeah, there we go. The detractor who said it was a Nike town.
We're not rewriting this narrative. You've been the most negative person on Air Max Day that I've ever come across in the sneaker industry.
I am conflicted here, Welty, because
I think he's more.
No, I am not a negative Air Max Day person like at all for the most part. I just don't want any more like sneaker holidays.
I trust your memory more than anybody's, but also I don't trust your interpretation of events better than anybody's.
He lies.
No, I don't. No. We're not.
Look at me.
We're not putting
I'm
that. No.
He said that.
You know I'm kidding.
No, I know, but.
Yeah,
you be capping about my meetings sometimes back in the day. He
No,
does
I'm
have
not.
a good memory. He likes to. He's a little bit like Scorsese. He likes to sprinkle some
romanticize.
Yes,
I don't think so.
Which isn't a lie.
No, I don't think that's true. I think
you paraphrase me a lot, or add.
Sorry.
No,
I was doing the Godfather music. That's obviously not Scorsese.
I think everyone has
Francis Ford Coppola,
their own interpretation in their head of. Because you might say something to someone and you might not realize that you're wilding out on someone. And you're like, hey, I just said it to him.
You don't sprinkle some sauce when you think of some of mine?
A little bit of gravy.
Either way, your take on Air Max Day, because you've been way more negative on it. I just made some jokes about shoes. That's
all right.
Sips tea. I turned the video on. He sipped
electric game at the Knicks game last night. Electric. We're electric right now.
Okay.
And
go.
No. That's it. J-Day. October.
No, but why you were negative on Air Max Day?
What? I didn't say it was negative on Air Max Day. You said it. He's just staring at me.
I'm like the ref meme. Do you know that ref meme when they're going back and forth?
Yeah. You said it. Like, you can't say that. I said it. You said it.
1,000 times I heard Brett done. It's like, I don't feel like we need to help Nike perpetuate their false holiday that's been created by the brand.
Said that.
I've probably said that.
Yeah.
Yes. I've never said anything like that. No, I have not. I just made it.
Check the tapes. Someone will find it. You know.
People in the comments, go deep. We need every bit of research help we can get on this.
So how are we celebrating this year?
Air Max Day or J-Day?
Air Max Day.
Even, hey, I even will say the same thing about New Balance and Gray Day.
Yeah.
It's just like sneaker holidays are just like.
For sure, especially after Nike set the tone with Air Max Day and like Adidas Boost Day and things like that.
If you want to go wear these shoes on the day, like I don't care. It's just like I think brands like making us all like try to pretend like these are like big holidays is just like
like something you got to circle on your calendar.
Yeah.
During the pandemic Air Max Day, I definitely took the time and put a pile of Air Max 95s.
Yeah, you thought John Donahoe was gonna double tap? Tinker comments, so good.
Wow.
Dude, I mean, I can make
Wow. I was bored in the house. I mean, a pile of fresh.
The first Air Max day ever, I took a photo of like chronological, like Air Max 1 to like Air Max 2009 with a Kiss My Airs tote bag in the middle of it. So I'm like guilty of it too.
Yeah,
like,
and how
I get
about this?
it.
How about this? One of the first Air Max days, I was working at Complex, and I took the time to Photoshop a bunch of airbags into the word air and post it on my Instagram, and Wealthy said, "That's so corny."
What did he?
Yes.
Oh, you guys got deep
1000%. So I got a little bit of a memory too, buddy.
What
but
I
also,
walk into
also
today?
Also, let the record show that first Air Max day ever, I went to Nike Town,
Not the House of Innovation.
not the House of Innovation, and bought Brendan Dunn the Air Max day Air Max.
Wow, some deep history.
And you know what?
We got to
really
keep.
therapeutic.
We got to
And
keep.
I was gonna buy a pair for myself too, and they said one per customer, and I got him a pair, and not myself.
Wow,
You
that's
know
just
what?
a good friend.
I joked earlier about the
No
Full
wonder
Size
you have
Run
so much resentment.
documentary. I joked earlier about that. This feels like the moment in the reunion. Not
Yes.
that we ever split up,
The
but
split up.
where you're hashing out all the old things. You're like, but I did this for you back in 2011.
Exactly. We can't split up today though.
No, we're here, we're together, and we brought along someone special, a guest today.
Big one.
Excited for this one.
Our guest on today's show built and ran the streetwear empire Karmaloop for over a decade and a half. During those years, the company became the go-to .com destination for clothing brands like 10 Deep, Mighty Healthy, Huff, Crooks and Castles, and sneakers from Vans, Adidas, Supra, and more. Karmaloop will be remembered for being the vessel for a generation of streetwear fans who wanted to buy big city cool guy brands without having access to storefronts carrying their favorite labels. The company would have major success during the 2000s, opening a brick-and-mortar store in Boston, partnering with Pharrell, and solidifying its legacy as a pioneer of street culture commerce. In 2015, after selling the company to Chic Shoes, he joined popular e-gaming collective FaZe Clan as their president. Today, with Karmaloop being a recent hot topic on the internets, we welcome its founder, Greg Selkoe, to the Complex Sneaker Show. Greg, welcome. Complex Sneaker Show.
Great to be here.
Good to see you.
I feel like I finally made it after all these years.
Yeah,
Really?
right?
This is the peak?
This is the peak, right?
It's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
The absolute zenith.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you?
I'm great,
Yeah.
except for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Tough one.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I didn't even know until you told me.
I had to break the news. We're going to talk a lot of sneaker stuff. We should just talk about our sneakers right away because sometimes we
let's do
forget.
I
Tell
have
us
a
about the shoes you have
protection
on.
pack, 1906D. My boy Owen Loomlens, who's the photographer at New Balance, called him up probably a little late.
Okay.
I was like, dude, I need heat. I'm gonna be on. These guys are gonna like, flex their shoes. I'm gonna look like a scrub. He brought these over, so
I
Awesome.
feel like when it comes to
Appreciate it, Owen.
sneakers, you can like just make a call and kind of make something happen.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
And Owen works at New Balance, and he grabbed these and brought them over. But I told him to get me something unreleased, but he's like, dude, you got to give me more than 2 hours.
Okay.
I also called Tarek from Concept, and
Yes.
he was going to give me the lobster dunks, the orange
Wow.
one, but I didn't want to bug him, so I just stuck with this.
Okay.
But thank you, Tarek, also for scrambling. In my usual way, I planned hours ahead.
Did you come from LA or
Boston.
Okay. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was in Boston. I based, I was out in LA when I was doing the FaZe Clan stuff, so I was living in West Hollywood, which I love West Hollywood. But I moved back to Boston to start XSet. But a lot of our staff's in LA, so we have an office in
Okay.
Compton. So I'm back and forth. Obviously, I'm in New York a lot because it's New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you here.
Yes.
I'm doing the Stash Nike Air Force One. I'm actually kind of going through it right now because, and this happened to me once before, and I milked it for more than it was
Sole
worth. But
collapsing?
the sole of the sneaker.
Wait, did the air bubble pop in those?
I think the air bubbles deflated, but also the shoe was a little bit tight on me, and when I went to put it on, I was like trying to get
size
it.
is it?
So you see this like translucent. It's
Well,
I
we got
can't
a
see
new-
Wait,
it.
is the
I'll
sole
take your
hanging
word
off
for
the
it.
back?
it's not hanging, but
It
it's
looked
like,
like it just looked like it moved when you put your hand.
yeah, that's like it's
Oh,
like
yes.
it's like it's
We'll
it's
see if
peeling,
we're gonna make it
so-
through.
That makes it limited edition, bro. limited. Stash is the homie, though.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Stash, please, please
up,
set me
Stash?
up. Yeah, maybe
Send
you
me
can
some more prints, bro.
hand cobble these back together. So I'm walking gingerly
Okay.
today. Speaking of gingerly, did you
Careful.
get those ginger 99 ginger
I did.
New Balances?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. I sent him the first one is who I text.
New Balance is killing it right now.
Crushing.
Yeah?
Crushing.
Boston company.
Yeah.
Shout out to New Balance.
Beautiful.
I'm doing these Air Max 95s that I ID'd.
Disappointed?
I've said on the show before, I suck at IDs. They never come out how I want them. I'm always like there in the lab on the computer and thinking like I'm going to put this together. Obviously, not an intricate design, but I thought the neon was
I
going to
thought
be
that
the
that
neon
was-
from Air Max.
I thought that
The
was
Air
a
Max
released,
95.
No, I thought that was a released pair when I first saw them because
No, the neon
They let you down?
is a neon yellow, not like the OG Air Max 95 neon.
It's kind of aggressive, that yellow.
Yeah, so
It reminds me of the 28 Days of Flight Air Jordan series where they did all those black Jordans with the greenish yellow
also
colors.
reminds me of the Cactus foam posits from like 2007.
So yeah, a little disappointed in the shade of the neon, but it's raining out at Beat-'em. It is what
Plus,
it
you
is.
don't even tie your shoe. So
Never.
Did you spend a lot of time on Nike ID? Did you ever have any late nights cooking up?
I
colorways
haven't
on
spent a
there?
lot of time. We actually did like a Nike by You with XSet where we did 35 shoes. I'll just let them make them for me.
Okay. Leave it to the professionals, right?
Will, who's my co-founder at XSet, Will Eden's big guy in the streetwear sneaker game. He does a lot of Nike ID stuff.
But
Nice.
during the Karmaloop days, you didn't have like an unlimited passcode on Nike ID or
No, I mean they were just getting it up and running at that point. But I think they gave us some stuff. I mean, look, we were backdooring Nike, but we just didn't talk about it.
Really?
We got to talk about it today.
Quick, get to that.
So these are the Carhartt New Balance 990s. Greg, speaking of that, so I remember because grew up in New Hampshire and used to go to the Karmaloop store quite often. One of my best friend, Dave, at the time, he was the valet manager at the Capitol Grill right there on the top of Newberry Street.
Oh,
so
well, that was the original Capitol Grill. By the way.
yeah,
Wow.
So we were always just like in the mix in that area.
Did you
And
ever run into me?
I was young back then. Don't think I would have known you at that point.
I think you were shoplifting.
Oh yeah.
You got the security cam footage?
No.
You just look different with the beard. That's why you grew that.
Yeah.
He's incognito right now.
Yeah. But I remember going to the Karmaloop store, and I remember like Nike wasn't something that you guys were big on retail at that point, but I think you had like a few SBs on the shelf. This must have been like 2006 or 2007. So
that was the first one.
yeah.
That was it like all white inside, or did it have?
This was the original one, and I know
Did it have the floor cut out and stuff?
it didn't have the floor cut out
so-
yet. It was the first one, and then I remember you cut out the floor and then put like the knight armor.
Yeah, we put like ancient artifacts.
Yeah.
And I'll digress for a second, but the story of that is I just walked in, they had the floor all up. I'm like, that looks fucking cool. So we put like a bunch of like weird shit, and then we put like an old Nike, and we put plexiglass on it later from underneath.
Yeah.
And then when we moved out of the store, eyewitnesses, so it's all still there. They covered it up, and left all the shit in there. So someday someone's gonna.
There's going to be someone who's going to unearth it. You think they're going to find like an
Thousands
actual...
of years in the future, it's going to really confuse historians when they
because
see
it was
Night of
good
Armor.
looking plastic
But
stuff.
Nike at Karmaloop in that area, you said backdooring, and it wasn't like officially through the brand or...
Yeah, hopefully I don't ruin my relationship with Nike, but I have a pretty good relationship with them. So, but essentially, we had an Adidas account, we had a Puma account, we had Saucony, we had everyone. You know, Nike's a different beast.
Yeah.
And Concept. You know, Tarek and I are good friends.
The
now, but,
tannery,
like, there was a little tension, right? Just because Boston's like a postage stamp, and everyone wants a Nike account. So Bodega got one; they were far enough away. Concepts had the one on Newbury Street, so there was just no chance, and I didn't really try it. So essentially, like, I don't know, you guys know Marlon from Sneak Tip. Yeah, so he had a store in Brooklyn called Sneak Tip, and then he had a connect in Miami, and so we were just buying a lot of backdoor Nike. I mean, we would love to have had an account. We didn't even really try because we knew that we couldn't get it. And then online at the time, they weren't just opening up online accounts. I think they probably do now, but at the time, like, you had to have a store to have it online. So it just was one of those things.
You never sold them online though.
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you ever worried that Nike would figure out what was going on and try and come at you?
I mean, they must have known we were pretty big.
Yeah.
We kept, as you said, we kept it very limited to really good shit, right? Like we weren't selling like any of the basic stuff. You know, and then there's sometimes like if an artist did like a stash, for instance, we would get some and sell it. A lot of times we would gift them. Yeah, I mean, look, we were touching sneaker culture, so we had to have some Nike. So I hope they understand. But like, it was what it was.
I mean, your store was like right next to Nike Town too.
Yeah.
So
it was an impossibility. They just weren't even like, they were like, look, we love
But you never approached them.
I had conversations with them and they were super cool about it. They're like, look, there was someone else who had another Nike account that was like mid-tier, like a block from us. Concepts was close to us.
there was that store X Squared like across the street too.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
they were backdooring too. But then and Nike Town was 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't going to happen. And I was trying to convince him to just sell online and just, you know, you got to, when you're running a business, you got to spend time where there's going to be a result, right? And I bet you if I put all my chips on just getting Nike, which maybe that's a smart thing, but it just would have been a Herculean task.
From those days, what do you remember? Like when I was young at Complex, we used to do like kicks of the day on complex.com. It was the first post. A lot of times I would look on Karmaloop. It was basically one post, the first post of the day on the website. You could buy these shoes right now, and like I would curate it, and I always would scour Karmaloop for them. But I remember the Supra.
Supras we crushed you.
Just paint that picture of the Supra Skytop. I like associate you guys with that a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that was a time when, and I don't know, they'd probably say no, but like some of the main sneaker companies were getting a little nervous because there was, you know, Creative Rec. There was so many other.
You guys were big on Creative Recs.
Yeah, we
too.
crushed it. We did millions with Creative Rec.
Wow.
You know, there were so many other like Off the Air. That was an early one. That was a sick shoe. Supra. I mean, there was tons of them coming up. Android. I'm sure you guys have had Sneaker Steve on here.
We haven't. And shouts to Sneaker Steve, true OG.
You gotta get
another
him on
Rich
here.
A guy. You're a Rich A guy.
Yeah. Rich is like the homie. I mean, we became friends through Complex. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know if you guys know, but like if you go back in the old issues, I used to have a section that I curated in Complex, and I did it for 3 months. And then Rich was like, dude, like, you hold up the magazine every time.
The deadline, not hitting the deadline.
So, like,
Printers waiting on Greg Selkoe and only Greg Selkoe.
I can't keep doing it. But like we put people find it at some point, but we're talking about Drake when no one knew. It was like just like a little collage. I should have been able to do it on time. It was like, you know, we'd have like something on music, so like something on a store in a city, so it would be other people's, like, you know, Undefeated or whatever. I put other stores on, put Karmaloop, I'm sure, in there too. And then like had like a hip hop artist, a restaurant, like it was just like kind of my shit. Right. And yeah, I mean, it was, I'm sure we had Supra in there. It was a time that like Supra was on fire.
How much Supra business were you doing at its peak?
I mean, we must've been at least doing like $1.5 million or $2 million a year.
Yeah.
We were doing 180 million total
in
the company at our peak. So a year.
I think it's interesting too, because if you look back on that era, it's like nowadays streetwear is so mainstream, so mass, you know, but that era, it's like it had to be like a real, like, if you know sort of thing. Like there were people at that time, like you said, like didn't know Bodega was actually a sneaker store. They would just walk by and think it was.
They go and buy cigarettes and bottles.
Yeah,
I don't think they sell cigarettes, but
But so at the time, it's like where you kind of had to know about these stores and be in the know to get the shoes. You went mass with it at the time. Was it hard to get people to buy into this idea of streetwear when at the same time everyone else is still wearing like American Eagle and Abercrombie?
I mean, there were so many things that were hard, right? That was one of them. I think one of the other things was, you know, like Bobby talks about, you know, we're homies now, but it was like this weird tension, like with the hundreds, because we were on the East Coast, and it's like getting even the streetwear brands to understand, like, bro, it's fun to have a little boutique. I mean, hundreds got it and they did very well, but like, you're not going to be around in a year if you don't start selling product. Like you got to go mass to a certain extent. And if you're going to go mass with anyone, because Macy's, all these other guys were still trying to open them because they understood that they saw what we were doing. So they're much better off doing it with us because they could, you know, I would like to think we had sort of a balance between like culture, lifestyle, trying to preserve that. And we also wanted to make money. Right. So yeah, it was hard, but like, I think, you know, it was the internet, right? So World Wide Web, it's called that because it goes all over the world. Yeah. So we got little pockets in every town in America that was like a Karmaloop fanatic, right? Yeah. And they may be the first kid in their community to be like, yo, like, what are you wearing? Because before Karmaloop, you could not get this stuff. If you were in New York or LA, Boston had like 1 store, 2 stores maybe. This was before Concepts. They were actually a year older than we were. But there was very few places to get it, right? And so we had to convince the customer. We had to we wanted to share the culture, right? Because it's the thing that was interesting about streetwear is it's part art, right? It's part lifestyle. It's not just product, right? And so like being able to, the internet was a great way to communicate that, using video, using interviews, telling a brand story, which at the time we got a lot of shit for because everyone's like, you know, if you went to Amazon or you went to other stores at that time, it was just a picture of the, you know, we were shooting the stuff on models. Everyone's like, you're crazy. You can't put content on an e-commerce site. They'll get distracted. But obviously that was right move.
Did people look down on you to an extent? People who were streetwear OGs, brands like Supreme, and feel like you were cheapening it?
I don't think Supreme felt that way. I do, like, you know, I remember like Aliashi, we were working with him early, and, you know, and he was kind of like, what the fuck is this mass stuff? Look, I think really why they fucked with us is because I spent the time to get to know them. There were plenty, like, you know, like BJ and Dennis. Dennis works with XSet now. Dennis from Crooks.
Oh.
Yeah, Crooks.
They meant Dennis Tedisco, who also used to be Karmaloop.
Dude, we'll get into that, but we have so many people that came out of Karmaloop. I mean, that are just crushing it, right? From Foot Locker to Atmos to, I mean, you name it, to what Dennis is doing. I just got this guy, Selkoe, texted me this morning, and it's out of the blue. He's at Nike. So
awesome.
They didn't want to sell to us at first, right? And so like Dre from the foundation, he was kind of blocking it. Like he and I were like, you know, like arch enemies.
And he had they had a ton of brands, the foundation.
Yeah, they're like, we'll give you creative rec, but we're not. Anyways, long story short, Dre's invested in two of my companies. We're like, you know, he was over at my house for New Year's Eve a couple years ago with his family. You know, Dennis and BJ, I mean, we have some stories, let me just put it that way, that I can't talk about. But you know, so it literally, I mean, part of the thing about streetwear was like everyone was within, like, you know, I think someone mentioned like Brown Babies in one of the posts about, or they mentioned hundreds or all. These were little social movements that were happening, little scenes that were happening.
They were like the cool kids at the party scene who somehow had like a brand, and then the whole thing.
100%. 100%. So it's like, if you came in and said, oh, I like your clothes, I want to sell them, they'd say no.
Yeah.
But if I came in and said like, yo, like we want to, I had to become part of their culture to a certain extent. Look, we were still a business. I mean, there were plenty of people who were like, oh man, you fucking, you know, you're asking for too much of a discount or whatever. I mean, I had the benefit, and this was kind of luck, of having this guy being my mentor, because I didn't know shit about. My dad's not a businessman. My mom's works for the town. My dad's a scientist. Like, there's no background in retail or any of that shit, right? This just kind of happened naturally, just out of my parents' basement. And I got to know this guy, Frank Esty. And he was the founder of Marshall's. Marshall started in Boston. Wow. And he was like a killer fucking, he would, you know, we let him smoke cigars in the office just to have him there. He was like 80 years old. He walked from his house. He lived in the Prudential Center. You know that. He'd walk to downtown Boston every day with a cigar. I mean, once a week, he'd spend a day in the office a week, but he was put like $900K into the business. Wow. He was a godsend, you know, because he looked at kind of what we were doing, like, what the fuck is this shit, kid? Like, you don't know anything about retail. I mean, literally, there was another guy named Sam Gerson who was also, because I was always looking for mentors, looking for people. He had been like the president of Filing's Basement. I remember one time I came in and I showed him my inventory, and I didn't know about week supply. This is literally like year one. And he's like, he was a friend of a friend of a friend. So he's like, hey, interesting stuff here, kid. Can you get up and shut the door? I'm like, shut the door? What the fuck? Is this guy gonna murder me? So I shut the door and I sit down. He goes, kid, you're gonna get your fucking head handed to you. You are out of business right now.
What was so wrong?
I had like 14 months of supply. Like, I didn't understand any of that shit. Yeah. Right? And so he helped me like get rid of it and get on a regular inventory. I mean, you can't just like understand culture and set up a business. Yeah. You can't just understand business and try to understand a culture. So we were very like uniquely, you know, kind of suited because we could do both. And we had these guys. I had a couple guys that just knew their shit, and I was just like, I don't know anything. Just tell me what to do.
Yeah. You mentioned, you know, there's the pockets of the kid in each town who was like putting people on to
like you.
Yeah. There's the pockets of kids in each town who putting people on to Karmaloop. But I think one of the things that people knew Karmaloop early on for was the people online with the rep codes. Yeah. You go on Nike Talk and everyone has their Karmaloop rep code in their bio.
In the signature, right?
Yeah,
on every post.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, we did a lot of innovative shit, right? And obviously when, you know, especially in the culture, you know, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'd be at Magic and I'd go and like go see and I'll get to the rep codes, I promise. I'd go see a brand that was hot. I'm like, yo, our audience is requesting your brand. They fucking want your brand. I won't name any names. It didn't even last for very long, but it was one that was really hot out of the UK. And they're like, they're thinking like they got the leverage, and they're like, listen, yeah, I know we're crushing it, man. Like, everyone wants it. It's like, we're not ready for Karmaloop. We need to stay like, you know, street. for one more year, and then we'll sell to you. I'm like, well, how do you know I'm going to want to sell to you in a year? I'm like, this is the time to do it. I'm telling you, like, we're using data back then, like just emails of people saying like, yo, why don't you have this? Why don't you have this? So it's like, bro, like in a year from now, I may not want your stuff. Like I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I've heard this from brands. And then a year later, they're not here. And of course that happened to them too, right? You have a moment, you got to jump on it. But in terms of the rep code, yeah, I mean, like it was basically, I mean, started before there was even, the only social media at the time we founded the rep was like MySpace, Facebook, Friendster, I don't know.
Friendster.
Tin cans with strings like, between kids' houses. And so basically like, it was like, how do we leverage these kids? You know, we were getting these emails that were fucking incredible, right? Kids like, you don't know how much Karmaloop means to me. I live in this town. These kids are all lame. I can't wait to move out of this, like, you know, Kansas, and like, I love what you guys are doing. So like, I'm like, well, we got to harness this, right? So we set up the rep program. We got to a point where we had 250,000 reps. And by the time Twitter came around, then you were starting to see it on the.
Who was like the top rep? Do you remember and how much business that person was bringing in?
Yeah, we got in a little tax problem with that, but
gotcha.
we were like, these guys aren't employees, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Because they're like our reps and whatever. But we just paid them cash. We paid them commissions in cash. Now you had to get to a certain point, but once you get to a certain point in code, you could take your rep points and you could get clothes for like 40% off.
Right.
No, other way around. Yeah, you could get clothes for full price, but you're using your rep code, so it's like free basically. Or we give you cash, but like 40% of what you get in clothes, right? Because we want to encourage them to, and then we're buying the clothes for a certain price, so we're still up like 10%, right? Yeah. But when you got to like 10,000 points or something, I don't remember, you could actually you could cash in your points for cash. We had people like making fucking $200,000, $200,000 a year
off of Karmaloop Rep Codes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, there was probably like 10. It's, you know, always like the 80-10 rule, was like the 99-1% rule. There was a couple of people just straight hustlers, right? And they were also using the internet. They set up little dummy sites, and it was fine. Like it was kind of the Wild West back then. But yeah, then we got like the IRS got us. And they're like, and then the fucking bill was crazy. I don't even want to tell you.
No.
Because it was like, they basically, what they said is, they were like, well, we don't know if there's tax yet because there's like a nexus thing. Like at the time, states didn't have to pay, e-commerce sites didn't have to pay income tax. Right?
Yeah.
But they're like, because we don't know what the ruling's going to be, and it's going to be in 9 months, we're going to say it's the maximum amount for each one. It was like millions of dollars.
Just pay just in case.
Yeah, we negotiated.
This like turned you into like the Jordan Belfort of streetwear, basically.
I guess so. Hopefully a little bit nicer and more honest. No offense, Jordan, but I love Wolf of Wall Street. But I try to be a little more, we were actually running a real business, but the kids, like, they loved it, obviously. And, we have these incredible stories, because we're like, the other thing that was crazy about it was people were saying, like, how can you give your brand to someone else? Now we see it all the time, right? Look at what Nike allows you to do. Off-Whites, they flip the Nike sign the other direction. Yeah. They didn't do that stuff back then. It was like, our brand, our color, our Pantones, don't fucking change it, right? When people came a rep, we gave them a kit of all of our, our like logos and all that stuff, and said, just go fucking nuts. Yeah. I don't care what you do, as long as you don't get arrested or do something like that, we have to disown you. And like, we're like, the more creative you are, and by the way, we could put our thumb in the scale.
Did anybody ever get arrested?
Probably stickers and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, Shepard got arrested once when we were doing a cover thing, and I bailed him out of jail. I still have the bail slip. But no, not for Karmaloop stuff. He was putting up obey shit. But so essentially, like, if someone did something really cool and they sent it to us, I'd just be like, give that guy 5,000 points, right? Or whatever. So like, we had people doing really like creative stuff. Like they'd have like Tupperware like parties on their campus and like trying on clothes and all this stuff. And then they would get people to buy right there. So they'd buy a bunch of shit. And then, so it was like like almost like a, they have their own little event. Right? Yeah. Or we had like, the things where you see like guitar lessons. Someone would make something that looked like that. And then each one of the things you pull off was a rep code. Yeah. Wow. And they put them all over campus. I had a kid that one time did this like sick graffiti mural all over his mom's garage. It said like Karmaloop, his rep code.
He had his rep code in a graffiti.
Yeah. and his mom called me and was like, what the, like, I need to get to the CEO. So I talked to her and I'm like, she's like, you're going to have to pay to paint that over. And I'm like, okay, but like, aren't you excited? Like
Entrepreneur.
This is
showing some initiative.
She wasn't excited. We paid, we paid like $300 to get it painted over. But
one person you mentioned earlier on Sneaker Steve, I saw an interview you did with him a few years back, and I love some of the stories in there about you growing up being super into Adidas in Boston and driving across the border to Montreal to get pairs.
Yeah. Like the Campus and the Gazelle was like the shoe in Boston.
It's funny because like that's a big Dana White shoe who's from Boston, like Campus and Gazelles. Yeah, it's like a Boston thing.
Yeah, I mean, you the more colorways you had in that, like the more you get laid.
Okay.
It's like,
but there was like a different version you said in Canada.
So basically, Boston's a big hockey town, right? So all of like the, you know, this is a different Boston than it is today. It was much more of like a, you know, rough kind of like, you know. There's some of that, but mostly not. It's gentrified. But so like there'd be these like, you know, Southie hockey program, and they'd go up to Montreal to play the Canadians. Yep. And they started bringing back these Gazelles that had a soft tongue, because the only Gazelles you could get in Boston at the time were the ones with the plastic tongue, right? And so that became like the currency, right? And so people would go up to Montreal and like fill their car with the ones with the soft tongue, come back and like flip them for tons of money. And then the other thing is there was one store called Jonesy's. It was in South Boston. Rest in peace. It's gone. And they had somehow they were backdooring it. They had all the colorways with the soft tongue. And then the Campus was also another one. But
the soft tongue was the one. You were the man if you had that. Showed up,
you could
same old place, getting a slice of pizza, toes on your feet.
Yeah, same old. You know, same old place.
Not too well, but I know you like to go there, right?
Jamaica Plain. That's right.
Yeah, go to Boston. There'd be like stores like Hip Zeppy at the time that was just like all Adidas, like every single color.
It was called like B's and Threes. Actually, when I was in high school, we had like a day, like someone just made it officially like, don't believe the Nikes, and if you wore Nikes at school, you get your ass kicked.
Wow.
People were getting their fucking ass kicked, and like they were putting them up they're throwing them up on the line and stuff. And I remember my friend Mark Daniels, still a good friend of mine. He's like, fuck, what do I do? I wore Nikes. So he got his soccer cleats, which were Adidas.
Wow.
And he was walking around the hallway all day like,
wow.
No, I talked to Ed O.G., obviously, Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs back in the day, and he said growing up in like Dorchester, there was like a tree in the middle of town where they took everyone's Nike or Puma shoes and ripped them off their feet and just threw them on one tree.
Yeah.
Did you ever get your shoes thrown up there?
No, but I did one time. I was on the bus and I had Fila, because I was always trying to get like the other shit. I didn't want to always wear the same stuff. This is pre my Gazelle. The Gazelles were the high school. This is like grade school.
Okay.
And I got the Filas with the Velcro, the high tops. And I remember one time being on the bus and like, yo, those are some nice Filas, kid. And I'm like, all right. So I fucking tied them up really tight.
got ready for combat.
And then they're like, give me those. And I'm holding onto the bar and they're trying to pull them off my feet. They couldn't get them off my feet. And then the bus driver's like, leave them alone.
Wow.
You survived.
And I was like, thank God for that Velcro strap.
That's it. Tight, choke them. At the height, you obviously had so many good relationships with brands. Was there one that like you tried to get that you never could get?
Yeah, the hundreds, I think.
Okay. Like you put a lot of energy into trying to get the hundreds.
Yeah, I was trying to dispel like their misunderstanding of who I was. And you know, when Karmaloop started, it was sort of the end of like the rave stuff. So we had a lot of like caffeine, and we had Carhartt, which cat workwear. We had Speedwack. Those are streetwear brands. But we also had like Caffeine, Bug Girl. Like I don't even know if you remember those brands. Like UFO, Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
And Jinko jeans. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, there you go. You got them on right now.
With the foams.
So like he had this thing like we're ravers, right? You know, and I love rave. I did love rave culture, but I'm a culture guy. I love different cultures, and that was one thing I think that was cool about Karmaloop. We weren't dogmatic. We'd put like weird shit on. People be like, "Why do you have La Tigre?" I'm like, I don't know. I used to wear it when I was a little kid. It's fun, you know. So like he was on the West Coast. It was just this mistrust, and they were very close with our competitor, Digital Gravel. Yeah, it was a stupid policy, but like he had a policy like if you sold a Karmaloop, you couldn't sell to me.
Digital Gravel.
Yeah. And I said, like, sell the Digital Gravel. I don't give a fuck. You know? But by default, if they did that, if they sold to me, he dropped them anyway. So, but like, you know, I figured we'd just win it on the field. I wasn't gonna. I was like, dude, it's not like one boutique it's the web. Like there can be two stores selling your shit on the web.
Obviously, there's like the famous photo of Kanye at the Karmaloop store.
With didn't he had, I remember, like, I have not a photogenic memory, but I remember, wasn't he wearing the scarf around his neck?
Yeah.
White tee?
Yeah.
I know
and then Don C was in it.
Yes.
I was actually out of town when but you know, I mean, Kanye was like, I've lost touch with him now, but I mean, I was on the board of his charitable foundation, which was the Donda West Foundation, then became the Kanye West Foundation. Like, I mean, I'm not going to comment on current stuff, but back then he was fucking awesome. Like, I have a lot of crazy stories.
Well, there's the story about I think that like Boston, one of the magazines, they had written like a profile on you, and they're like, oh, it was 2:00 in the morning, and Kanye had run out of liquor, and he had just done a performance, and you like went to a bar in town, and you got them to give you crates of booze.
I'll tell you that story.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, Kanye would come by the office.
Yeah.
Like he knew what was up. He was a style guy.
Yeah.
Come by the office, talk to Dennis, talk to people. You know, he was super supportive of what we're doing. And in fact, like, you know, when I'm sure we'll get to the sort of the gnarly parts of the story, but like when that happened, you know, Dame Dash, Kanye, and Magic Johnson and I were trying to get the company back from this private equity group. Yeah. And none of the shit that would have happened, and they wouldn't sell it to us. But they you know, Kanye went on, like, you know, put up a viral video like, I'm going to own Karmaloop, because that was to pressure these guys to fucking do something. So
him and Dame Dash.
Yeah. They went out like, we want, you know, because we couldn't get them to pay attention. Like, I'm like, guys, you're going to...
I didn't know Magic Johnson was involved.
Yeah. Magic was involved.
That was crazy, because that, like, people, like, didn't take it seriously at the time, and it launched a bunch of memes, and they're like, oh, here's Dame Dash and Chief Keef. They're going to go buy Blockbuster.
Yeah. That would have been a good buy, man. I hear Blockbuster's coming back.
But, you know, with Kanye and doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, he was super supportive. I mean, at that point, like, when they were trying to do that, like, it was more Dame and Magic were my main points of contact, but Dame and Kanye had just sort of gotten friendly again.
It's like 2015.
Yeah, I think Dame went on a award show and like gave a really like more heartfelt like thing about their history and their friendship. But basically, one time I was in LA, you know, Will Eddins, he's my co-founder at XSet. I'd like to spend some time on that, because I think there's a lot of DNA in what we did in my new company. But so he was with this other guy, Dauda, who's actually a board member at XSet. Dauda manages Grimes now, and he helped like build DJ Snake. He's like this guy Danny Fight, who manages Chami. Dauda Leonard and Will are like my best friends, right? Okay. And Will's like a G in this space, and you should probably have him on at some point. But so Dauda and Will are with Kanye because Kanye played at UMass. This is how, like, you know, and they were in Quincy, which is the next town outside of Boston, right? It's like literally right next to Dorchester, but it's like right on the other side. And so Quincy, everything closes at like 12:30. Okay. Right? And the bars in Boston close at 2. But if the bars close at 12:30 and you got to go into Boston, you get there at 1:15. What's the fucking point, right? And I mean, and they wanted weed more than anything than booze. But so Will calls me up, and it's like 2 a.m. in LA. So I'm like, what the? It's got to be like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, Kanye wants to talk to you. He's like, yo, we need some girls, we need some weed, and we need some booze. Can you get that? And I'm like, then I go, can you put Will back on the phone? And he's like, right. And so Will's like, yeah, man, can you sort it out? So I called a friend of mine. I don't know if you remember Wonder Bar in Boston. This guy.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
So he owned Wonder Bar, this guy, Josh. So I'm like, I called him up. Some reason he's up too. And I'm like, bro, I got a weird request for you. Kanye, and by the way, Wonder Bar's in Brighton. It's like a 45-minute drive to get to. I'm like, so you know Kanye West is? He's like, yeah, I love his shit. I'm like, all right, can you get like 5 girls who might want to hang out with Kanye West? Like girls, not like anything, you know, illicit. Just people like just they want to have a little party, right? And I'm like, and he needs some weed. Weed was still illegal, and he needs like a bunch of booze. So he went to the bar, got like a bunch of booze, and then got weed. I think he sold weed, and got a bunch of like his friends, a couple girls, couple guys, whatever. And then they drove over there, and they went to I think it's the Days Inn in Quincy. Wow. And they all hung out like till 10 in the morning. And Kanye was playing all his new stuff and like rapping for them over his own. He had like the. I mean, I wish I was there. It must have been an amazing moment.
Because I think because after that happens, like when the Kanye goes to Adidas, the Yeezys come out, and at the time when the Yeezys first came out, they were so hard to get, and they were like, who's gonna sell these shoes? I remember at the time we used to put these list together like every single store that's selling the Yeezys because you know there was so few. I remember you going on record being like, Karmaloop's gonna have the Yeezys.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, and at the time, people were like, they weren't sure if that was going to happen or not because
we did.
That was right on. Well, I'm just saying, like, I remember you saying that it was like right on the edge of like when the brands started to go bankrupt, you know, and you were like, no, I've known Kanye and Adidas for so long, we're definitely going to have the shoes.
Yeah, we got like 200 pairs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was probably a year though. We were still doing okay at that point. I mean, the decline happened like we were, like if you had told me 2 months before then that was going to happen, I'm like, you're fucking crazy. This it was engineered by the private equity group to get the thing. So we didn't default on any payments. We had enough money. We were a profitable company. But when you borrow $30 million from someone, and I think I borrowed another $10 million from this private equity group, these guys are like, well, it's a win-win because either he's going to pay us back with a huge vig or we take the company. Yeah. And they're seeing all success and whatever. And they're like, we can do this without this guy. So they came up with these, what's called technical defaults, which are like, we didn't file a piece of paperwork. It wasn't like we didn't miss, we were paying them $300K a month on time. I mean, we did $300K a day. So we were paying them, and I get a letter like, you're in technical default. And they just moved quick. And like, they're like, you've got 30 days to give us $40 million. And I'm like, so I actually got it. I scrambled. I went out to I went to see Dame. I went to see this guy.
How'd you get it? How'd you
put together the money?
How'd you get $40 million in 30 days?
Well, I mean, they would
teach me.
Well, I mean, at that time when we were so successful, I'd like call people like, we need $10 million. It would be in my fucking
Dame
account.
gave you some?
Really?
No, Dame didn't. Dame helped put the deal together. He's like, Dame didn't give us any money, but he's like, I'll get Kanye. And I'm like, let's meet with Magic and this guy, Eric Holloman. And then Magic wanted to meet with Kanye without me to kind of like see what he thought about me, right? And so they went to Kanye's house in Hidden Hills and they sat there and they talked. Whatever. They came out like Kanye's feeling this, let's do it, and whatever. And I called the group in that was the private equity, and they're like, we don't have to give it to you. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have to give it to me? I didn't know. I figured, okay, we saved it.
Yeah,
like,
you have the money.
No, in Delaware, once you default, if we choose to not let you pay back the note, like we want the company. Initially, they had come to me and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you 20% of the company and we're going to take the rest, right? Which they can do because once they wipe out what you call the note, you get the company and all the other shareholders. I'm like, I can't do that because I'll wipe out all my other investors and like my name will be mud forever. I'm not going to do that to someone. And it's just not the right thing to do. And so they're like, well, we'll take it without you. And I'm like, good. It's not a coal mine. Yeah. Like you can't just like clear me out and then start fucking digging coal the next day. Yeah. Like this place has a soul and a life and you need to. And so they thought it was going to be easy ride. And they just, I mean, someone who was on the inside of the company showed me the sales from the day I left. And it literally was like this, each week down, it never came back up.
Imagine Magic Johnson owning Karmaloop with that group. Like, were there any grandiose ideas that like were really impressive for like the revamp?
I mean, the sad thing is once they shut us down, there was so like it was really just getting up and going. But I remember that week, I think I stayed at Dame's house, just being out there, man. It was just like surreal. I'm like, I'm going to lose this fucking company that I fucking built, and I'm like, and like, I don't,
Were you sad or were you in the mode of a businessman and trying to save the company, or was it some mixture?
I think it was like I had adrenaline. I mean, I wound up getting really sick, and I think actually part of the thing why, because my wife was kind of like you fought, but you didn't fight the way you normally fight. Like like if I ever did that again, I'd see you motherfuckers coming a mile away, and that would never happen. Okay. But I didn't know a lot of stuff too about like law, and I learned the hard way about how debt and law and all that works. But I was also getting this autoimmune disease, which I wound up like a year later being in the hospital for a month, and so I was exhausted and, we had made a couple other moves prior because before they called the note, they started doing things to us. Like I had $600,000 in old inventory. So in the agreement with these guys, I had to get permission to sell anything over $300,000. I didn't even know that. Again, I made lots of stupid mistakes, right? And I shouldn't have even borrowed the $40 million to begin with, because if we hadn't done some other things, we wouldn't have needed it. So I'm not passing blame. However, it was totally a manufactured disaster, right?
Isn't that like kind of what most people say, or I think you've said it in the past, where it's like the real downfall of Karmaloop wasn't like the business growing. It was just trying to do too many different business ventures within Karmaloop at one time, and it just all kind of like the house of cards just kind of fell out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll address that in a sec, but like so they're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I'm like, every fucking company, you want us to hold on to old inventory? What is your reasoning? So then I knew like they're trying to fuck me. This was like 7 months or so. I'm like, okay, something's going on. I'm getting paranoid. I'm like, they're hiring people that they're making me hire these consultants to be in the company. And like, you know, and it's costing us. I'm like, we're struggling here. Why are you making me spend more money? Like, you know, and that's like talking to Jimmy Iovine and other people who've been through like private equity. This is totally typical, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what was going on. But the question there is, that didn't kill us. Certainly, if we had gotten a partner with good faith who had invested $40 million and I didn't borrow it, and by the way, I borrowed it because the interest rates were really low. And other investors are like, we don't want to get diluted because it's going to be worth $1 billion. Borrow the money. If the money was that money was invested, that money's gone. It's a sunk cost, and the company just goes on, and the company's making money. There's nothing they can do because we did have to pull the plug on a bunch of stuff. But I mean, in retrospect, having worked at FaZe Clan and starting XSet, I was like, yeah, you know, we got to pull the plug. It's doing $5 million or $6 million. This is like Brick Harbor, which is our skate site, or Miss KL, which is our all women's site.
Did Boylston Trading Company too?
Yeah, that was a disaster.
I remember that. Frank the Butcher.
Yeah. I mean, it was great conceptually, art-wise, but that one we never really. But these other ones were, in and of themselves, were businesses doing millions of dollars. But like, you know, Karmaloop's doing this, and so we're like, oh, we don't have the time. But now knowing how hard it is to getting a business to 6-7 million is like, we probably could have done something differently. But you know, hindsight's 20/20. I'm here. I learned a lot. I had an amazing. I mean, I have so many other crazy stories that I wish we had all day. But
stay here all day.
Yeah.
We got to turn the lights down, man. It's hot.
Yeah. What's another story that sticks out? I feel like you do have like a pamphlet, a book of crazy stories.
I'm going to write a book at some point.
Yeah,
for sure.
but which one? Like
you got to write the foreword.
Got you. What was it like working like with Pharrell? But I know that's probably not a crazy story.
Oh, look, Pharrell's awesome. You know, we're still in touch. Not very often because he's a pretty busy guy these days. I mean, Pharrell is a genius.
Yeah.
How'd you meet him?
So here's a good story with Pharrell.
Yeah.
This is so, and I hope he's not like thinks this is sharing tea or something. But I mean, I think it was great. We bonded up there. So he had an event called Kid Alt, which was like I
remember that
nonprofit. You know, and all of us have had times where financial times that are tough. I mean, now he's probably a billionaire, but like we were all going ups and downs or whatever. And basically, like Kid Alt had their sponsor pull out last minute. So they needed like $45,000 or something like that. And they were fucking scrambling because like it's 2 days away. We don't want to cancel on all these kids. So he got my number from someone. Like, so I'm right near here. I'm walking on the street and I pick up the phone like, hello? Like, yo, what's up? This is Pharrell. I'm like, yeah, right. And then he's like, no, this is really Pharrell. We wound up talking. He's like, look, man, I know this is a crazy question, but like, I need $45K. I need a sponsor. Can Karmaloop write a check for $45K? And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. He's like, when do you need it? He's like, tomorrow.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, well, overnight. We weren't doing a lot of wires. I'm like, all right, well, overnight you a check. I'll call the office. I'm in New York, bro. So we did that. And then we just started becoming friends. And then we had this concept for a TV channel, which.
Karmaloop TV.
I remember it.
Yeah.
You know which one I remember about Karmaloop TV, which is a real deep cut? I remember 40-ounce van in a bodega, like the original chopped cheese before it was like anything. The first like
reporting on it,
the first like reporting on chopped cheese before
Karmaloop
any
TV.
of the sites was a Karmaloop TV with 40-ounce van. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, we have some real classic moments there. Kanye's been on it. I mean, Kid Cudi.
Yeah,
we booked him for a party for $500.
Wow.
If you look at the on YouTube and you look at the Karmaloop store opening when we redid it, he's there. He's like, "Yo, I'm Kid Cudi." He's like 10 years old. But yeah, I mean, the Karmaloop TV thing would have worked, right? It was YouTube, and then unfortunately, I don't know how I got in touch with an executive at AMC because cable was dying, right? And so they're thinking like, and she's great too. I have like nothing but love for everyone, and obviously Pharrell. It's like amazing to watch him. Like he's great. Even when I was at FaZe a little bit, he was at Jimmy Iovine.
You went to his wedding, right?
Yeah, I went to his wedding. Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Yeah,
I have some stories about that too.
I mean,
He did. It was at the dude. I'm all a good thing I have ADD. But what was I talking about first, and then I'll get to the
you were talking about the exec from AMC.
Oh yeah, so like somehow I got introduced to her, and they're like, cable's like we're fucked, right? We need, and so we said like let's take Karmaloop TV, what's online. and let's put it on cable. I had no belief in cable. The concept was like, I always like to try to zig when other people are zagging.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at the time, cable's done. I'd say stuff in meetings with like Comcast executives. They'd be like, I need water. Because I was like, dude, HBO is going to go direct. Watch, they're going to go to direct. And the guy's like, we would never let them go direct. They need us. I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But so basically my thinking was like, we actually have discussions going on with the highest levels of all these cable providers. Let's get Karmaloop TV on there, and then we'll go backwards, get all these households, and then bring it back onto digital. It was so hard to get it on there, and we spent so much money. And Pharrell and I put like our life into this, heart and soul, and essentially it was down to Revolt and us at the end. And Revolt got the spot, and at that point I couldn't continue. And they were like, Comcast is like, look, let us do Revolt, and then we'll do you guys next, because we had a different concept. But I was like, I can't spend another $12 million this year to produce nothing but like decks, you know. So it is what it is. But what was the question?
Pharrell's wedding.
So Pharrell's wedding was at the Botanical Garden in Miami. Beautiful wedding. Helen's awesome. I think they got 4 kids, triplets, and then Rocket. You know, it was typical Pharrell style, like super beautiful but not super flashy. Everyone at the wedding got Tom's shoes at the end. Like I think some people were wearing them around. I don't know if they had you wearing them around or whatever. It was low key. You know, Busta Rhymes was there. Q-Tip was the DJ. I remember at one point there was a guy who was dressed like the Mad Hatter walking around. I think it might be the guy who does like the circus out in LA. What's his name? He's friends with Steve Aoki.
I don't know.
Well, they did all the stuff in the Miley Cyrus video where they had little people, you know, kind of dancing and whatever. And he was sort of like a showman, whatever, but he was dressed as a Mad Hatter. I'm thinking like, this is a guy who's like there, for like entertainment, but it was like his friend. So I'm like, and he's like off on his man. He was off on his own doing stuff. It may not even have been him, but I remember at one point I was with my wife. I'd only met Nigo one time before.
Okay. And
he was like in traditional Japanese dress. And I don't know if it was wife. She was. So I was excited to talk to Nigo. So I'm like talking to him, like all this stuff. And he's just like nodding. I'm telling my wife, like, he's not really saying much. Like, I don't know if he's like digging what I'm saying or whatever. Yeah. And Pharrell comes by, he's like, you know, he doesn't understand anything you're saying. I mean, he speaks English, but I talk very fast, right? So I'm just going. And he's just like,
he's looking at you like the Mad Hatter.
Yeah. He's like, who's this fucking nut?
Bringing up the original Bape camo and stuff.
But no, it was really cool. It was fun.
Kind of a random deep cut, but just wanted to get a story on it. I remember early on, Kelly Karloff was like the face of the brand. And,
Kelly.
And everyone, she was like the OG, like Karmaloop girl. Like, how did she come into the mix?
I mean, we had a lot of models that actually went on to, like the girl who was, the woman who was the Miss America. She's from Rhode Island. I can't remember her name. Anyway, she got really big. She dated Seth MacFarlane at one point. Okay. She was one of our models. I see all the time still. I mean, it's getting a little dated now, or it's almost 9 years ago, but sometimes I would pick up Vogue or whatever and be someone who started as a model. And she was a friend of a friend, I guess. Yeah. And she was kind of like the first, this was like kind of pre-influencer.
Yeah.
And then there was this.
She was like the it girl in like streetwear at the time.
Totally. I mean, she signed autographs. She walked down the street. You're like, you're the Karmaloop girl. I mean, it was kind of sad. I mean, it's like, we see it now all the time, but at the time, I'm like, what the fuck? There was a site called The Dirty. I don't know if it's still around. Then there was another site like Are You Awake? And they were just like trashing her. No reason, just being misogynistic.
It was like that era.
Yeah. And they were just like, you know, terrible things. She was not taking it well. And I remember being like, look, you got to not read that shit. These guys are incels. They're losers. Like, don't worry about it. And it was really, I've seen that over and over again now. And obviously it's on steroids nowadays, but it was tough. But she was, I don't know what she's up to now, but she was definitely the face.
Just to get back to a little nostalgia, we mentioned it briefly, but I remember the parties in Magic, Creative Recreation, like it was the Encore, I believe, when I was young. But talk about the Creative Recreation boom, because I feel like we're going to have a lot of listeners.
Those parties were with Karmaloop.
Were they?
Parties,
Okay. Talk about the Creative Recreation boom. I remember my intern interview to get to Complex. I worked.
I think I'm going to take this off, guys.
Go for it.
You should call the show like the complex sneaker sauna.
Yeah.
Well, we have the wooden panels in here, so we're not too far off.
Yeah, the bright lights are hot.
I could probably beat you with like the eucalyptus bush.
the palm
Plus,
fronds.
I just wanted to like show
There we go.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, what were we talking
The
about?
creative recreation boom.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you guys were really big part of that, but like, then I remember later, like, just it hitting New York and like, I don't know if it was Jimmy Jazz, but like I worked at Kings Plaza Mall and you would see creative recreation.
Yeah.
Talk about, for people that may not remember, the creative recreation sneaker boom.
Well, I think it's similar to the Supra thing. By the way, we had a shoe that we did. We just did a colorway called the Supra Banana.
Okay.
And we would.
Was it yellow?
Yeah, it was all yellow. Very sharp.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's why you have this guy on the
See,
show.
look at
He's an astute
Commentator.
commentator on culture. The creative rec stuff was dope. It was always like two-tone shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, at that time, not everyone was wearing Nikes. Mm-hmm. You know, Puma had a little moment for a while. They brought back the suedes, and then this other weird shoe that was like had Velcro all over it. But I mean, it was more distributed. I mean, New Balance was like a distant fourth, and now New Balance, I think, is number 2 in the world after Nike. Right? They surpassed Adidas. I'm not sure.
Not quite.
No.
Still lagging a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anyways, they're putting out a ton of heat. I mean,
Of
look
course,
at
of
this
course.
stuff.
Well, creative rec just printing money for you guys.
Yeah. And they eventually,
Yeah.
Look, the other thing that I like, want people to understand is like Karmaloop still exists.
Yeah.
24 years old. We had a run of the 15 years I was there, 14 years we were crushing it.
Yeah.
We had 1 year where it went bad. And again, I'm happy to talk about anything. I'm totally open about it. But like to do that in fashion, it's not typical.
Tough.
Almost every brand from Barney's to Brooks Brothers, 100 years old, they just, went bankrupt. It's very typical that a retailer goes bankrupt within a couple years.
Yeah.
Because you have one bad season, and that's not what killed us, but generally what happens to other people, they have one bad season, they're like, oh shit, we got $1 million tied up in inventory. What do we do?
Yeah.
Right? And they have to, liquidate it, and then they get, let's say, 50,000 out of that million, they're in big trouble.
Did you feel like Zoomies and PacSun were trying to steal your sauce at that moment?
Yeah. I mean, both those stores were very different at that time. I mean, Zoomies was much more skate.
Yeah.
PacSun was like a surfer California, like a kind of an American Eagle.
Yeah.
I definitely think they learned a lot from us. I wouldn't say, it's just the same thing like when people talk about like, oh, if they ban TikTok, what's going to happen? Well, another company is going to take their, obviously YouTube Shorts, whatever. Same thing with Karmaloop. When Karmaloop went, started going way down, Zoomies and PacSun and other stores picked up the slack for the demand for the clothes. Now, they didn't bring the culture stuff that we brought, but yeah.
In the current day kind of commerce, whether it's brick and mortar or online, who do you look at like they're really crushing it?
I like Hidden New York. I mean, they're definitely different than Karmaloop. They're not a store necessarily, but they have very artistic like IG posts.
And they've harnessed like the IG account to a product now.
Yeah, this is a collab that my company just did with Pleasures. I mean, I think Pleasures embodies some of it, and we just did this. We released some stuff with them in Japan recently. Atmos, I mean, Concepts, Bodega's still kicking.
Yeah.
They have LA. I mean, that lives on. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't think anyone's exactly. We were very.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we did live streams in 2012. There was only one company in the world that allowed you to live stream from the internet. It was called Livestream. That's how early it was. Yeah. And we used to do these freakathon things, which would be these 24-hour streams. It was just like total debauchery and madness. But we'd sell like $2-3 million worth of this stuff. And the traffic we were getting was like, because they did like Fox News is streaming, whatever. We could see the thing. We'd be like the number one. We'd surpass Fox News and CNN. Because I mean, it was early days. Because our site was one of the most visited sites in the world.
Yeah.
And we just put the streaming interstitial right there, and people, you go on the site, and then people just like, what the fuck is this craziness? And then start watching it.
Can you talk about what's going on with XSet and just explain to people what you've been up to in the past few years?
Yeah, because I think it's really important because, basically I kind of transitioned into the gaming world, but obviously brought my love of streetwear and sneaker culture. There's a lot of similarities here, but it's like some people, because their world was streetwear, they're like, where did you go?
Yeah.
I was living out in West Hollywood, and I basically had a company called WanderSet. WanderSet was basically a drop ship thing where we're using influencers to sell product, right? And I like smoke perp. We just, I know a lot of folks, so we're pulling them in. And like I wanted to use other folks besides just musicians, DJs, and athletes. And I've been seeing all the stuff about these gamers. I like kind of like what's next. We have millions of fucking fans, Banks and those guys. And they weren't esports. I wasn't really a big esports guy. It's cool, but you know, it was just like they were like the next cultural movement. They were like kind of remind me of hip hop artists or whatever. They were rock stars. So I had asked these guys from FaZe to do. So they were initially going to do like this stuff on my side. Got to know the guys. They're both from the two founders are both from Boston originally, and so like I was like, oh, I love this. So we merged companies. I worked there for 2.5 years. Co-ran the business. Obviously they've had some challenges. I left at the peak, which was, thank God, it was, I learned some lessons from the past. And I made a lot of money there. It was a good experience overall. I mean, at the time it was pretty stressful dealing with those guys, but overall, and I really got into this new culture. Right. And Will Edens, who's the co-founder of XSet, he was the head of merch there. And we started doing collabs with Champion and Bear Brick. And then Aaron Levant started working with us a little bit. He gets, you know, he's the homie, and like, so we were bringing streetwear culture to gaming, right? I mean, we did stuff with Siberia Hills, small brands, big brands. We did like a thing where we bought a ton of Supreme blanks and printed on them. And then the chairman of the board of Supreme called me. He's like, I'll let this slide. I happen to know him, but he's like, because we wrote Supreme Team,
in their font.
Not in their font, but I mean, it was their blank, and we just said they're Supreme shirts. We didn't say they were collab. We said they printed on genuine Supreme blanks. And he's just like, don't ever do that again. I'm like, don't worry, we won't. But like, so we were doing cool creative stuff, and that, you know, we took that business from, they had 0 in sales, and the year I left, we did 10 million, did 14 million overall.
This is FaZe.
FaZe, yeah. But ultimately, like, FaZe wasn't my brand, and like, to me, I've always been, you know, wasn't a very diverse place. There were, you know, there's 3 billion people in the game worldwide. 45% of them are women. Like coming from the world that we come from, it's all different kinds of people. It was just a different vibe. And you know, Karmaloop was always had a kind of a positivity, and there was sort of a, in my opinion, a little bit of a negative edge there. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So we left and started like, why don't we start our own thing in our image, the way we want to do it, right? So Will and I and Clinton Sparks, who was
Get Familiar.
Get Familiar. Yep. We're at FaZe Clan at the time. I basically just engineered my exit, sold all my equity. Great exit for me. And then we said, look, I'll leave because the founder and I weren't getting along great. And so I said, look, I'll go. I want to start my own thing, but I got to be able to compete. So we worked that all out. So we launched XSet on the cover of the style section of the New York Times in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic. We really planted our flag in the ground, saying, look, we're going to be really lifestyle, right? Gaming's the center. Just way skateboarding is the center of Supreme, but Supreme does stuff with Mobb Deep and Louis Vuitton and the Muppets. Like, we want to be that nexus between music, fashion, art, entertainment, but through a gaming lens. And so, you know, we had some esports. Over time, we've basically evolved to really just be this sort of like content, lifestyle, commerce. I mean, we've done stuff with the NFL. We've done stuff with, you know, the Red Sox. We've done stuff. We have a partnership with Breakaway Music Festival, so there's a gaming setup. You know, we've done, you know, Ozuna's part of it. So we did collab merch with him. He's an investor. T Grizzly's an investor. Sway Lee's an investor.
Our guy T Grizzly,
T Grizzly's
big gamer.
He's crushing it for us.
I love T Grizzly.
I mean, he's doing it on his own, but like we work with him, and like he just played. We just had a party out at TwitchCon. He did it. We actually have gaming lounges, first time ever in nightclubs, right? If you go to Dre's nightclub, and you guys should, you know, I'll get you a free one, but generally you're going to pay more money for it. If you want to rent,
say that again, just so we have it.
Free.
I'll get you a free one
for like 20 minutes. But
me playing Fortnite in the club.
Basically, you rent a gaming cabana. It's an XSet cabana. It's got all our branding. It's good, and basically it costs more money because it's got gaming. You just game and drink and fall in the pool.
I'm down.
There you go.
But T does GTA. He's amazing. He's just,
he's like great at it, right?
He's great, and he's just as big a gamer as he is a rapper in terms of like his status.
Are you playing games? Like, what's your game of choice right now?
My game of choice is making gaming culture happen. People ask me a lot of times in interviews. Obviously, I've played Fortnite. I played Call of Duty. I mean, I don't want to date myself to talk about the games that I
mean, I'll go right there with you.
But I mean, I gamed my whole life. I never considered myself a gamer. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I was fascinated with it. It's like what we think of as a gamer, like, you know, a hardcore like kid in his basement, you know, who's just, you know, really, really like technically into gaming. It's not what a gamer is anymore. Every athlete, everyone in the NBA, they're all fucking gamers.
Yes.
We have DeAndre Ayton's part of XSet, right? We're talking to a really big football star. I mean, we have Zeke Elliott's an investor. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but Rich is an investor.
Okay.
You guys didn't even know that, so there was no conflict.
Yes.
Quality Control's an investor.
Okay,
Lil Wayne's an investor. So like all these, and they all come at it from a genuine, authentic love of gaming. Some guys from 300 Entertainment. I could go on and on. Hopefully, whoever I forgot doesn't mean I don't love you as much.
There we go.
I do, but I have, limited brain capacity. So bear with me. But yeah, so it's really building. A lot of it's kind of feels like Karmaloop. Now, a lot more of our money comes from like doing brand deals and activations. But we've done, we've done a collab with Clot.
Okay.
We did this.
We just had Edison on
check,
here a couple weeks ago.
I think Nick's wearing the Clot.
There we go.
Nice.
And I mentioned that because of that. And Edison's the homie. Like we're pulling in the folks that we work with. Dennis Tedesco. No, Dennis Tedesco. We haven't done anything with it, but hey, Dennis, we should
Shouts
talk.
to Dennis.
But
Big gamer.
Yeah.
Real gamer.
Is he really?
Oh yeah.
That was a side of him I didn't even know.
Pack. Yeah, tap in. Yeah.
All right, good. We should sign him.
Yeah. Although I did. Just so we're being honest about his credentials, I did knock him out of the semifinal round of a GoldenEye N64 tournament recently. So
I can tell it's this mustache again.
Yeah, see? It's his bag.
So Dennis Calvero from Crocs works with us. We did a capsule with Ganga, the tattoo artist, in this fall. Clicks is our biggest star. So Clicks is like the next Mr. Beast, in my opinion. He's different. He's just turned 19. Super fucking cool kid. Good style. He's got a clothing brand called Dreamin'.
Okay.
He's doing $1 million a year in his clothing in his sleep, right? We're going to help him like really,
Is that why it's called Dreamin'?
I guess so. Good point there. Yeah. He's just counting the money in his sleep.
Bananas.
Quick here.
He's giving you a run for the money in terms of the astute observations.
I guess a good full circle moment on it is, a few weeks ago, Karmaloop gets back in the buzz circle again.
Yeah.
D.Omen has a tweet saying, we can put it right here, we talked about it earlier, paraphrase is that, remember y'all were wearing Karmaloop fits back in the day, I didn't forget, which was, I guess, a negative.
It was a diss, yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel about that? And then everyone coming to bat to defend Karmaloop.
All of a sudden I started getting texts. This was not planned. It was totally out of the blue. And I had a lot going on that week. So I'm like, fuck, I hope this doesn't go anywhere crazy, right? But what's up with this stuff on Twitter? And I'm like, what? And then they're like, just search Karmaloop on Twitter. So I go on, it's like, I'm like, what is going on here? Karmaloop was trending.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know who that kid is. Clearly he learned his history very quickly. No shade on him, but it was nice to see. I mean, there were some really heartfelt stories. Yeah. There were some folks that were upset about stuff that I actually got in contact with. And I was like, look, this is what happened.
Okay.
This idea that a lot of these guys lost money, almost none of the brands lost money. Now, some of them lost the last payment, but over the lifetime of the time of the brand, we made them tons and tons of money. And unfortunately, when there's a bankruptcy, and I had lost power, right? And I actually, just so you guys know, like, any one thing I signed personally, and that was like $10 million worth of stuff, which is the only stuff in a bankruptcy I'm allowed to pay back. I paid it all back. I lost all my money. Every penny I put out. And like when I started with this guy named Paul Judge, who's an awesome entrepreneur. Paul and I were on Complex once before.
Okay.
Talking. I fucking love the guy because when I was really in my low 2 weeks after the leaving, and I went to Ben Horowitz's house out in Silicon Valley. He has this barbecue, and I met Paul. Paul's like, all right, let's start another business. I had no money. I mean, he saved my ass, right? Wow. So never will forget that. But, what was I saying again?
The conversation.
The conversation you were getting.
Conversation. Okay, coming back to, you're looking at me funny, so you're kind of unnerving me.
I'm just taking it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously touched a lot of people. And what I was saying on the brand stuff, so a lot of people got, at the very end, there was $3 million in unpaid invoices. And those people didn't get that $3 million. It was spread out amongst 140. And that's the worst part. It kills me.
Yeah.
There must have been like 150 customers who also just got wiped out. And that's what these guys were like. They didn't give a fuck. And I'm like, I remember telling them, like, guys, do you understand? This is a fashion lifestyle business. You cannot do this and expect the brand not to be completely killed. But overall, I mean, I think as you could see from the response, we've made people a lot of money. We've done a lot of good things. People had some really good experience. I thought it was really great to see what Leah said and Scott Sasso and even the Hundreds guys, because like now we're like old men, like, yeah, remember those days when we weren't working together? You know, it was just amazing. Everyone in that article that you guys wrote, it was really nice. And there was just some fun, like I was getting a lot of people DMing me like, bro, didn't know what happened, but like, I was like a 14-year-old kid, and I sent you an email, and you got back to me, and this is what it meant to me. So it was good to see all that, because when I left, I was just like, I got to walk away and not think about this, because I mean, I lost my baby. It was, you know, I can laugh about it now, but it was like I stood on the. I live on the 19th floor. I stood on the edge of the thing, and I was like, I mean, I wasn't really going to do it, but it's like kind of like when you're hopeless and you don't know what to do. I'm like, I should just fucking jump off the. You know, I wasn't going to do it, so I'm not like playing some card, but it was, I did actually go do that because I was so like symbolically, what do I do? Right. So it was super painful, but like, you know, I think, first of all, America loves a comeback. So I knew a lot of people have always been rooting for me. It was good to see like how many. I think the folks that, you know, someone like Scott who lost some money at the end, I thought his
Scott Sasso from 10
Scott, his vision on it, like, look, I didn't like that, but we made a ton of money. I hope that's how most of the people see it. And you got to understand, in a business, it's a business, right? And you can't always, the reason why you bet on a business is because you're hoping you're going to be the ones that win. But most businesses go out of business. Most businesses don't succeed. Most clothing companies don't succeed. You know, for every Nike that has like the movie Air, there's a million other shoe companies that we don't have movies about because, you know, they got going and they couldn't get it off the ground. So I'm super proud of what we did. It's great to see that it's still around. I don't love sort of the condition that it's in right now, but you know, with XSet, like, and all the stuff we're doing with a lot of the folks that, you know, Will Edens, the co-founder, was our buyer. And he was with me at Phase. He was with me at Wanderset. So many of the folks that, you know, Drew McCarver, who's just going to come on now to do some design with us. He was a designer at Karmaloop, then he was at Wanderset, then he was at FaZe Clan, then he just was at I think the head designer Planes for 2 years. Like, there's so many stories of like people who either were customers like you. Look at where you've gone in life. It's all because of Karmaloop.
Oh, there we go.
Or people who worked with us, or brands that like it helped launch their career, or was a small part in launching their career. So that's a good feeling. But like, to me, it's like, my best days are ahead of me. Like, XSet's got to be the.
I thought you said earlier that this was the pinnacle.
Well,
what, the show?
I plateaued.
Okay.
Here we go.
There's still good days ahead. But this was pretty good.
Among the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's the witty banter, like,
right. Different.
Yeah.
Listen, so much history. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Great to see you. And I
gotta throw up the XSet, baby.
Absolutely.
This was a real treat. Thanks, you, Greg.
Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. This has been the Complex Sneaker Show. We hope everyone has a great weekend. Please like, subscribe, comment. We will see you next week.
Follow me at Selkoe, at Selkoe, and follow XSet at XSET on everything.
There you go.